Alright everybody, welcome to another video, this time from inside. I actually caught a little cold, so I figured it's a perfect opportunity for me to just stay in and talk a little bit about my favorite Fujifilm lens, which is the 50 to 140 2.8. And once again, this is not necessarily a gear review channel, but I have been abusing this lens for many years now and took some amazing, actually some of my favorite photos with this one, which I'm going to show you. And yeah, so this is like a 3-4 year review on this lens, and it's definitely taken a lot of beatings. It's still holding up great, it still functions perfectly. This thing is actually just built very solid, but more about that in just a minute. So welcome to this video, and let's talk about the Fujifilm XF 50 to 140. Let's go. So I got this lens used. I actually buy most of my lenses used, just because I feel like if people take good care of their stuff, then I have absolutely no issue buying it from somebody else. And this was actually the second lens that I ever got for the Fujifilm system. I had the 16 to 55, which I'm filming on right now, and then also this was the second one. It's very similar to the 70-200 versions that we're seeing from Sony or Canon, and just like these lenses, this one actually has an internal zoom. So one of the things that I really love about this lens is the internal zoom. It is super smooth, and everything on this lens in general feels very well built. Like the aperture ring clicks just perfectly. Let's listen. I love that sound. It's got something so like satisfying to it. One of the reasons I really love shooting with Fujifilm is obviously, probably like all of us, we love this kind of old school techie kind of way of operating the camera. So aperture ring, huge plus, and this one actually feels, probably out of all my lenses, it feels the most solid, and like it doesn't feel floppy or anything like that. Very nice. The image stabilization on this lens is amazing, so it makes such a huge difference if you turn it on or off, and you can see like the footage goes from shaky to pretty stable. So the image stabilization really good on this one, especially because my X-T3 doesn't have image stabilization, so really happy with that. I actually got this one before I got this one, this big boy, the 100 to 400, but I gotta say that this one in many aspects actually surpasses the 100 to 400. Obviously these are two completely different lenses, so what am I even talking about? But this lens is so sharp. It's probably the sharpest Fujifilm lens that I know, or at least that I have ever used. I haven't used all of their lenses, but a lot of them. This one, I think so far, is my favorite when it comes to image quality, sharpness, color rendering, color richness, bokeh. Like pretty much checks off all the boxes for me. I love using this one for portraits, even though I don't shoot a lot of portraits, but I shoot a lot of animal portraits. And I actually got this one particularly for a job that I had in northern Russia, where I was taking photos and videos for a fishing lodge, fishing operation, and I got this one to get like very nice close-ups of the fish, like their faces, the scales, like just details in general, and also just, to have the flexibility to not only have the 16 to 55 on one job, that lasted for actually many weeks, but I needed that extra reach, that extra flexibility. And up there in northern Russia, that's the first time I used this lens. The wild thing about it was that the conditions there, the weather conditions, were brutal. Like, they were so brutal, and this lens never even gave me any issues ever. So like, we had rain coming down for hours, like I'm telling you, like raindrops like this big just smashing down, and I was like, I didn't care, right? So I was like, if this lens is weather resistant, which that's what it says, right? WR stands for weather resistant, so if they're living up to their word, I shouldn't have any issues. And I did not. Neither my X-T3 nor this lens, after hours and hours of hardcore rain outside, and once again I did not cover my gear at all. I was like, let's see what happens. And it worked fine the entire day. I was actually, at some point, actually did get concerned, but it held up great. Just so did the lens. No water came inside, and everything after all these days of shooting in literally like a hell, like rain thunderstorm scenario, everything worked amazing. No water came inside the elements. Everything still worked super smooth. Amazing. So this lens definitely takes a beating, and for me, doing a lot of adventure content, meaning like, I'm always shooting in scenarios where it's not like a studio environment or anything. When I shoot, I'm mostly somewhere remote, somewhere outside. But yeah, with the Fujifilm gear in general, never had issues. So in terms of reliability, weather sealing, ruggedness, toughness, 10 out of 10 from my personal experience. So now obviously image quality is what everybody is after the most, and I can only repeat myself. In terms of image quality, it's probably my number one Fujifilm lens, and I don't think I've ever had a lens that's this sharp. The focusing is relatively quick. I guess I've had faster, but other than, I think it's like in terms of focus speed, this one has like right in the middle. It's a pretty good sweet spot, and I don't think it's too slow for any of the work that I did in the past, so has just been working out so far. So now let's talk about the downsides of this lens. So is there any downsides? Honestly, very, very limited ones, but this lens, obviously, if people like the Fujifilm lineup, they appreciate the lightweight factor of it, and this lens weighs around, I think it's like around 1 kilogram. I don't even know how many pounds that is, but you know, whatever. Now that I live in America, I should learn all the different like systems and stuff, but I think the metric system makes more sense. So anyway, so around 1 kilogram, which is pretty heavy for considering that, you know, if you're shooting it on an X-T4, X-T3, X-T5 or something, small little bodies, you might not even have a battery grip on it, but so the lens is definitely way heavier than your actual system, your actual camera. But personally, I like having a little bit of a heavier setup. I know it kind of doesn't make sense. You're like, oh, but you love shooting on Fujifilm, but you like a little heavier setup. It's like, I like a certain sweet spot, obviously, especially when I'm out there in the wild. I don't want to carry a lot of heavy equipment, but I also like to have the feeling like, you know, when I have something in my hand and it feels tough and well built with good materials, it gives me a certain sense of confidence in my gear, and that's actually something I need, especially being out there in the wild and just like putting my camera on like a rock, and sometimes it tips over, and when it rolls down like a little rock or something and maybe hits another one or something, you know, like stuff like this happens. So in that case, I feel much more confident when I know, okay, like my gear is actually built tough. It's made out of solid, like, I don't even know what this is, aluminum, steel, whatever case, and I'd rather take that extra weight over you know, a super lightweight setup that then fails on me when I need it. But yeah, what else can I say? I'm just like, I don't even have a script or anything. I'm just speaking my mind and just started talking. Because I actually want to make more videos, not necessarily on gear. Like if you're interested in that, definitely. But you know, more in general, just like fun things, photography, adventures, you know, the fun things in life. And obviously this one has the red badge on it, which shows you that this is one of their high-end lenses. Actually, the only lens I have that doesn't have the red badge is the 18-55, and as you can see, I have this like focus. No, it's actually a zoom ring. I have the zoom ring attached to it because that one goes into my underwater housing. This is actually the lens I use mostly for my underwater stuff. It's the 18-55, which is I think the old kit lens. So it also has image stabilization, which is good for video because I shoot a lot of video underwater. So with my X-T3 and this one, I get a little bit of image stabilization, but this is the only lens that is not the red badge one. And it also doesn't have weather sealing, which, since it goes into my underwater housing, I hope I never need the weather sealing. This is my underwater housing, by the way. Totally different topic for a different video, but that's where the camera kind of like goes inside and you can see all the little like gears and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I think that's it for this little video. Once again, probably the biggest recommendation out of all Fujifilm lenses would be this one, having a reliable, high quality lens, and this checks off all the boxes. So huge recommendation, guys. The Fujifilm XF50-140 2.8. Absolutely adore this lens, and I hope that I'm seeing you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, wishing you all the best. Take care, and bye-bye.